Okay, hi, and welcome to our meeting. Today we're talking about home offices. So today we're going to focus on home offices, and in our next video we're going to talk about offices at the workplace. More and more in the United States, it's becoming common for people to work from home or to have a home office. It's becoming the standard that every family or every person at least has one computer and they do some kind of work at home, right? And so the home office is becoming a staple of the home. And one of the first decisions that you need to make when you're going to be working from home, or if you want to have a home office, is whether you're going to have a dedicated room to be your office, or if you're going to have a nook or a corner in another room of the home. Things that can help you decide this is your personality, what kind of work you do, and where do you thrive. And for most people, the common sense would tell you that when you are going to set up a home office, that ideally you should be in a room by itself where you can actually close the door and concentrate. But not every person operates that way. For some people, it's impossible to concentrate if they're in a room with the door closed and away from everything else. And so this may be, if you're more of an introvert, you're probably going to want the option of being somewhere you can close the door. And if you're an extrovert, you're probably going to want to set up your home office in a way that you have a connection or communication with the rest of the home so that you can actually interrelate with other people, or at least be aware of what's going on while you work. And so this is going to influence greatly whether you're going to have a dedicated room in the home to be your office, or whether you're going to have just a nook, a corner in another room where you're going to set up your work area. And so this is also sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes it may be that it is your nature to be able to concentrate more if you are isolated in a space where you can close the door, but maybe you don't have the room for that in your home. Maybe you have family and there's no extra rooms. There's not a guest room where you could go and set up your own office, and so you have to adapt and set up your work area in another room in the home. And so you also need to consider, why do you have a home office? Do you have a home office because you actually work from home? Or do you have a home office because you do things in the computer that are not related to work? This is also important to determine, right? So think about it, and if you want it, put it in the chat. What is the main function of your home office? And if you can tell me percentage-wise, you can do this in the chat while we're recording this live, or you can put comments underneath once I post this on Facebook. And you can tell me, what is the main function of your office? Are you mainly percentage-wise? What percentage of the time you're actually sitting in front of your computer is that for work, and what percentage of the time is just for fun or for entertainment or doing household things as opposed to work things? And so all of this is going to influence your choices of where your home office is going to be or should be. And so depending on what is the main function of your office, depending on how much concentration you need to have while you're working, depending on whether it's going to be for you to be in isolation or not, you need to decide where to place your office. And so let me tell you about front and back. And so for a person who needs an office for what's going to happen in your home office, if you need peace and quiet, then you should choose a room or a corner that is closer to the back of the home. And if you are the kind of a person that you get actually bored or de-energized, if you do not have, if you don't see activity, if there's no noise around you, then in that case, you should choose a room towards the front of the home. So some of my clients, they want to be completely secluded, isolated, in silence and in peace when they're working. And so for them, maybe a room that has a window towards the backyard would be the best. And for somebody who, there's other people, that they actually like looking out the window and seeing some activity while they work. So when you look at the Bagua map, And you have it here, right? You have the 9 squares, but you also have bands. So you have the front band, the middle band, and the back band. And so you have wisdom, self-knowledge, and rest, careers, life mission, and individuality, help of people, spiritual life, and travel. That is the front band. And the back band is wealth, fame, and relationships. The middle one is health, the center, and children and creativity. Hey, welcome. And so let me make sure I mute. So I'm muting everybody until the end of my presentation, and then you can ask questions. And so these are bands, and these bands are related to something. So these life areas at the back are the life areas that are related to the past. They are a consequence of the past. The life areas that are in the middle are these life areas that project into the future. And the life areas, the life areas in the front are life areas that project into the future. And the ones in the middle are the ones related to the present, the ones that need care in every day. And so when you are, depending on what kind of business you are in, you may need to have more of the energy of the front or more of the energy of the back. So if you are in finances, for example, if you were a financial planner working from home, it'd be better for you to be closer to the front of the house. That type of energy would be better for you than the energy at the back of the house. But if you are, for example, a Reiki practitioner or a psychic, you do psychic consultations, it'd be better for you to have the office towards the back of the house because the energies are different, right? And so that is also an influence in where to choose, where to be for this, right? And so then, let me see. Okay. So we're summarizing everything that we're seeing so far, right? So one aspect is, do you need a full room for yourself, or do you need to just have a nook, a corner in another room? And sometimes that's decided because you don't have space to have your own individual office. So then you have to be content with carving off a little space in another room. You need to consider whether most of your activities in your home office are work-related or play-related or home-related. You also need to consider if what type of business you are in, if you're in business, and you also need to see if the energy is, if you need more an energy that projects you into the future, then you'd be in the front of the house, or if you need an energy that is that connects you to the past, right? Because it's a business that's more related to the past. And so there's some businesses, if a business is dependent on reputation, I'll be right back. That was the teapot, so I apologize for the interruptions. As you know, I work from home, and I have told my family that they should not interrupt their work or the things that they need to do because I'm doing a live meeting, because then people get nervous. And in the case of my husband and sons, I used to ask them, well, can you be quiet while I'm doing a recording? And what they did is just be every bit as noisy as they've always have been, but just in slow motion, you know? And so I told them, no, just act normal. So this is, it's relevant to what we're talking about today because of me working from home, right? So I run my business from home. There's very little time that I spend in front of the computer that is just for fun or for me to be not just doing social media because out of, because of friendship or enjoyment. And most of the time that if I'm in my office nook, I am working. So I'm going to tell you what's behind me. Right behind me is the kitchen. And my office is in a nook in our living room. And I have tried it, later on I'll tell you, how my business, my home office has evolved within our home. And that had to do with what age the children were at a certain point, with the needs of my business, and what has been evolving in my business and has manifested also in the space that I use. And so if you have a business, as I was saying before the interruption, if you have a business that depends on referrals, it might be better for you to be towards the back of the home. And so, for example, real estate, right? If you specialize in real estate for homes, it may be better for you to be towards the back of the home. But if you specialize in real estate for business, it might be better for you to be closer to the front of the home, right? Because if you're doing real estate for business, there's a clear connection with making money. And if you are doing real estate for homes, you know, most people don't buy a home all the time. You know, they may buy a home and then several years buy another home, but they're not going to do this. Most people don't do this every year. They'll do it all the time. But when you're doing real estate for business, things in business can be moving a lot faster than things happen in the home. And so now let's talk about what kinds of rooms are good rooms that would be compatible with having a corner or a nook in that room. And so if you look at the new tendencies, like new construction, there's a lot of new construction that actually has an office nook in the kitchen. And I guess it's because a lot of people, you know, they come home and there's a kitchen counter, so they plug their things in the kitchen counter, and then there's outlets, right? So they plug their phone, they plug their tablet or their laptop in the kitchen. And so a lot of contractors, builders, they say, well, you know, let's give people an office within the kitchen. But this, according to Feng-Shui, is not a good idea. And it's just because of common sense. Because in the kitchen, now, first of all, there's too many distractions. And if you are cooking, if it's actually a kitchen where you cook, there's going to be too many distractions. And there's also going to be a lot of noises. There's going to be water running. There's going to be also things boiling, things frying. There's going to be oils and things. And so if you, especially if you're in a kind of business where you have to deal with a lot of paperwork, being too close to the kitchen or in the kitchen is not a good idea. Now, the dining room, it depends. So if your dining area is inside the kitchen, it's not a good idea to make that your office. But if you have a dining area outside of the kitchen, you can make that into a home office, or you can put your home office in a corner of that. Now, there's a lot of my clients that have homes that they have a dining area inside the kitchen or right outside the kitchen, and they have a separate formal dining room. And that formal dining room almost never gets used, maybe once for Thanksgiving and once for Christmas. And so in those cases, you can actually, in it usually works really well to turn that formal dining room into a home office. And that usually works really well. Now, you can also put a home office in a guest bedroom, right? Because if it's a guest bedroom, it's very rarely going to be used as a bedroom. And then you can have the office there. If your guest bedroom doesn't get used often, right, which is usually the case, then you would give the power position to the desk and not the bed. If you are inserting a desk into a bedroom, for example, if you have a teenager at home and that teenager needs to have a desk in their bedroom, you're going to give the power position to the bed rather than the desk, because the person sleeps in that room every night. But if it's a guest room where you're trying to turn into a home office, you're going to give the power position to the desk and your chair. And so, and that would be the guest bedroom would be a good place to put an office there. And also the formal dining room is a good room to turn into a home office. The family room and the living room are usually good places where you can have an office, a corner, an office nook. And so so I wanted to share with you, the evolution of my working from home. When we first moved into this home, the children were little and they actually wanted to share a room. And so there's 3 bedrooms and there was an extra room. So I had my office in the extra bedroom. Now, as the children grew older, one of the conflicts for us was that they turned the living room and the dining room into a minefield of toys. And so at some point, I gave them the office to use as a playroom, because then when things got too messy, which they often did get messy, if we had if I got overwhelmed seeing that their place was too messy, I could just close the door. If we had guests and they didn't want to pick out their toys, and I could just close the door. And so then we reached an agreement that there were certain toys that they were not going to keep in the living or dining room. They were going to keep them only in their playroom. And that worked really well for a while. And so what I did during that time is that I turned our dining room into my office, and we had the dining table off to the side of the kitchen in the living room. Our kitchen has two accesses, you know. One of these I have covered up, and I'll tell you why later. It's right behind this screen, and this is the connection between the kitchen and the living room. And then on the other side, there's a connection between the kitchen and the dining room. So for a while, I had my office there. Now, some of you may know this about me, but for many years, I worked doing graphic design and desktop publishing. So when I was doing freelance graphic design, I needed to have a huge scanner, and I needed to have a large format printer. So there was a lot of room my business needed to cover. I needed 6 drawers, a filing cabinet with 6 drawers, when I could keep all the folders for my clients and all their jobs that have been completed, the jobs in progress, and different things like that. And so I needed a lot more room back then. But then in 2014, I closed my freelance graphic design business, and I decided to just do Feng Shui. And from that time on, you know, I realized I no longer needed a scanner at all, and I no longer even needed a printer, because everything I do now is long distance. You know, most everything I do is long distance. And so we do have a couple of printers in the house. You know, we have one in one of my kids' rooms where they have their computer. And we have one in my husband's practice, which is, he also works from the house. So for my husband, we converted the garage into living space, and that's where he practices, where he has his chiropractic practice. But for me, you know, my needs, when I closed down my graphic design business and was just doing Feng Shui, and most of my Feng Shui is done long distance, all I needed really is, a smaller filing cabinet, a small bookcase, which you can see here, it's behind the computer, and a small desk, a Macintosh computer, Mac computer, an Apple computer, and with one drawer and shelves, so I can put all the devices, and especially the backup hard disks. And I think you should be too, I am psycho about backing up. You know, I always back up things 2 or 3 times, because I have had the experience of losing a lot of work from not backing up. So I am very zealous about backing up now. And so for me, because of my personality, right, it has turned out a lot better to be able to have a nook in the living room because of the children, because I homeschool my children. And so before, when I had an office when I could close the door, sometimes I felt, oh my gosh, you know, this is so peaceful. But I also feel disconnected from the children, and I often found that I was not concentrating on my work enough because I was worried about what the children were getting into while I was working with the door closed. And so that's one of the things that influenced my decisions of where my office nook should be, is that. And so also, and this may not make a difference for those of you, you know, if you don't have children, or if your children are older and they have left the home, this might not make a difference for you. But one of the things that I have found, you know, is when I had one bedroom, a whole bedroom for my office, or when I had the dining room turned into my office, I felt this tug of war between work and family. And I felt like one took away from the other. And so at some point, I also made this decision to make my workspace physically smaller, so that I wouldn't be working so much and I could pay more attention to the family. Now, I hesitate to tell you this, but I'm not a fan of work. You know, I do work a lot and I work hard, but not in the way most people would. I only work 2 or 3 hours a day. During those 2 or 3 hours a day, I really concentrate, I really focus, and I get a lot done. But it's never been my idea of a happy life to work 8 hours a day. That's, you know, ever since I was in high school and I visualized my future, I never thought, oh, you know, one day I'm going to be working 40 hours a week or more. That's never been it. And in my life, you know, I've worked like that for 4 years. when we lived in Mississippi, I worked not just full-time, but way too much overtime. And, you know, for those 4 years, working as a graphic designer for a commercial printer, during that time, I realized, yep, this is not what I want to do with my life. This is not how I want to live. And so, but I do work. I appreciate work, and I love my work. But I feel that work should not take over most of a person's life. Well, that's, or at least my life, you know, that's my preference. Now, there's other people who just love to work, and they have so much passion about their work that 8 hours a day to do their work is too little for them. So people are different, right? So you have to accommodate for people's needs. To me. Okay, so if this was a plot of land, right? And in Feng Shui, we use the celestial animals, you know, which is the basis for form school. And then you have the turtle at the back. You have the dragon to the left, and you have the tiger to the right. And in front of that, you have you're supposed to have a red phoenix, but I don't know what my cat did with my red phoenix, so I couldn't find it today. So the book is going to be the red phoenix there. And so this arrangement is what determines the best arrangement for furniture in your office. So like here, right? In your office, the turtle would be a solid wall. Like in my case, you know, there's an opening behind this. So instead of the solid wall, I have a screen that I love, you know, I really love. And because I do videos, you know, I also really love seeing the screen in my videos. And so the other alternative, you know, so you can have a solid wall, you can have a screen like I have right now, but you could also have a couple of bookcases or a table with a hutch or a desk with a hutch behind you. In the classical office, the classic home office, like if you look in the British TV shows or movies, you know, about the classical library, they always have it. That was my cat. See, all sorts of things happen when you work from home. And so, would you help me pick that up? One of my kids is going to help us pick up this. And so, looks like she made a terrible mess right behind the computer. Okay, and so, you see in those movies, you know, you'll see they'll usually have like a desk and a hutch, and it's full of beautiful books that all have been covered, and they're just really beautiful, and they all look the same, right? In our modern life, books don't come, they're not all hardcover, they don't all have those beautiful spines. Books are made so that they compete with each other in the bookstore. And so for our modern lives, it's actually better if you can have like where you keep your books in your office, if you can actually have cabinets where you can close the doors, because otherwise sometimes, you know, this collage of all the colors and text and different type styles and words, and it's just too contrasting and too shocking. And so that's something to consider, you know, just maybe get something where you can actually close the doors, get cabinets to put your books in. Now, if you love looking at your books, you know, then don't do that. And so, but that is the turtle, right? That is the turtle that you have at the back. And then if you have any high pieces of furniture, those should go on the sides, never in front of you. And so the highest piece of furniture you can put behind you. And then pieces of furniture that are high or medium height, you can put it on the sides. And that would be representing the dragon and the tiger. And then in front of you, you should have something that is open space, or you should have a low piece of furniture. And so, for example, if you have just a 2-drawer filing cabinet, you could have that. You could have a love seat. You could have a table, anything that is low. So what you don't want to have in front of you when you are sitting to work, you don't want to have something that resembles a mountain, you know, like a really huge piece of furniture or a solid wall. Now, sometimes, you know, if you have a solid wall, what you can do is on that wall, put a painting or a poster of something that resembles what you could see out a window. Like you could see a valley out the window or a beautiful garden out the window. If you can get a painting or any image that resembles that, that is a great option. So you want openness in front of you, right? And so that's something that you need to keep in mind. Now, you don't want to be in the path of the door. You don't want to be sitting at your desk and looking at the door. And you don't want the door, you know, like somebody opens the door and they were walking towards you, they should not be running into you. So like the door should not open to a view of your chair. And so all these things need to be considered. Right now, you'll see, like if you Google Feng Shui for the home office or Feng Shui for the office, there's a lot of nonsense out there. Now, I'll tell you why it's nonsense, you know, which it seems really reasonable. You know, they say, okay, do the bagua on your desk. And because the phone is communications, you know, and that's relationship with your clients, put the phone in the relationship corner of your desk. And put a little purple crystal in the corner, in the left corner, the corner for wealth. And put this and that, you know, because it's a reminder. Put your address book in the helpful people corner, because that's where you do your scheduling or your calendar there, right? And then put something that reminds you of peace and concentration and wisdom. Put a book on this side. And so that may look really pretty, you know, like to take a picture and say, oh, look, I Feng Shui my desk. But whenever you organize your desk, you need to consider just functionality. And so you need to place the phone where it's going to be easier for you to answer the phone and take notes. You need to place your calendar where it's going to be easier for you to make changes to your calendar to write down appointments. And so there's some things that maybe you could put little ornaments in different places to enhance the bagua on your desk. But that should not be the decisive factor of where you put things on your desk. Things on your desk need to respond to functionality rather than the Feng Shui cures. You can, in addition to that, do Feng Shui cures in your office, but that shouldn't be the ruling thing. Another thing is, some people are like, you know, like, I don't know the secret of how to keep my desk tidy. You know, how should I organize my desk so it stays tidy? But the main thing they're missing, you know, when they're asked for that kind of advice, is that it's not the arrangement that determines if your desk is going to be tidy or not. It is whether you tidy it up every day or not. That is the main thing. And so when, okay, so every morning or in the middle of the day, at night, any time that you choose, but usually it's better if you choose like the same moment, you know, like it's, either you always do it in the morning, either you always do it at night or in the middle of the day. And this is something that you can do if you have a lull, like in the middle of the morning or in the middle of the afternoon, you feel like your energy goes down. This is a good time to do that, because that's a time when you're not going to concentrate and you're not going to be very productive. So that is the time when you can do menial work that doesn't require a lot of concentration. So you need to tidy up your desk, and you need to do that every day. If you don't do it, it doesn't matter how you organize your desk, it doesn't matter how you organize your office, how you arrange things, it's not going to be tidy. And so one of the things that I have taught you, and I'm going to also put that link under this video. The way to control paper messes is to keep paper vertical. And so you shouldn't have any piles of paper, you should have them vertical. You know, like what I recommend that you do is that instead of keeping a pile of papers on your desk, you get a wire organizer, and then you put the same pile of paper, just pick it up, turn it over, and put it in the wire organizer without organizing it. Just stick it in there. Because if you're not the kind of person that organizes their papers already, there's no point in trying to organize the one you put it in the wire organizer. And so what you do, you know, if I have a pile of papers, right, and I'm looking for a paper, I have to lift them one by one. But if I have them in a wire organizer, then all I have to do is just flip through it to find any papers that I need. So I'm going to show you something now. This is my wire organizer. So what you can see here, what you see there, right there, these are the things that could be piled on my desk right now. These are my pending things to do. Looks like a lot, right? But some of that is notes that I have for writing newsletters or for courses that I'm working on. some of that is things that I have not make a decision. Now, I put my wire organizer in a basket because it looks nicer. For some people, they need to have it more visible. And so you just saw, the number of file folders I had it, the number of loose papers I had there. If I put that on my desk, it could make a total terrible mess on my desk. Now, it doesn't look messy, it actually looks nice because it's a really beautiful basket because I put it vertical in a wire organizer, and then I put that wire organizer inside of my basket. And so the bottom line is that every day or every 2 days or at least once a week, you need to clear your desk. And instead of piling papers, put your papers vertical, and that alone is going to transform your life. That piece of advice alone, there's a bunch of people that have told me their life changed just with that, just with getting a wire organizer, a vertical organizer, and placing all their papers that were messing up their desk in the organizer changed their life. And so I do recommend that you do that. In the moment you start piling up papers, you are asking for trouble. I think it is so funny, that we've made so many videos. This is our 8th video in the year. And I've made so many videos, so many times, for webinars and things. And usually nothing happens or very little happens. And today that we're talking about the home office and working from home, all these things happen, that my husband left the teapot on and walked away, so I had to go turn it off. And that my cat decided to knock a bunch of things down from the back of my desk. And so I think that's pretty funny. But it's very synchronistic that it happened, because it gives you an idea. There's chaos when you work from home. Unless you live alone, when you work from home, there's chaos. And even when you live alone, there's the chaos. There's kind of chaos in your mind, because, and this is the reason I have a screen here. Okay, my nook used to be rotated. So on this wall over here, that's where I had my screen, and I was turned this way when I was working, and this was open. And in the beginning, I thought it was really cool because I cook a lot, and I cook from scratch. And so I thought it'd be really neat because I could be minding the pots and then going back and forth from the desk and to the kitchen. But then I found out I was not concentrating enough. Like, I was not concentrating enough in the kitchen, and I was not concentrating enough with my work. So then I did this, where I turned it over and I put the screen, so there's no direct communication between my office nook and the kitchen anymore. And that works better. I'm better, I'm more concentrated. Now, another thing that you can do and you need to do is, if you're in business, after, if you have had a couple of bad months, looking at the same things it can strengthen that feeling of failure that you may be feeling. For example, if you have your office, an office corner in your dining room, and the thing that you see in your dining room, if you see the TV, like you have a view of the living room, and what you see is the TV, and the suffering that you may be feeling, the frustration that you may be feeling when you're not selling as much as you need to be selling, when you're not making as much money as you feel that you should be making, that view gets recorded into your mind with the moment that you're going through. And sometimes it's, as things start to improve, that view is still giving you feedback that things are not bad. So sometimes, when you have had a bad month or a bad couple of months, it's necessary for you to move things around. You may need to put your desk in a different position, or move the things that you see. So like, for example, if you were seeing the TV, maybe you could go make some tweaks in the living room so that you no longer see the TV, that you see a beautiful plant or an aquarium when you're sitting at your desk. So making changes in the home can help you a lot. Another tip is, if you feel that you're stuck in any way, you're stuck in your business, if you're stuck in your freelance work, if you're just stuck in any area of your life, you can go around your house and move 27 small items, or move one large item. And so, for example, it doesn't have to be huge moves. It may be that if you have this flower pot on this table, you put it on the other table, or that you switch the location of some of the books on your bookcase, that maybe you were keeping I'm trying to say, you know, I get a message pop out in the screen and then I lost my train of thought. Okay, so for example, if you're keeping your toothbrushes on the right side of the sink, move them to the left. So you can do that, move 27 small things or move one large thing. For example, the big dresser, move it from, even if it's just a few inches from one side to the other to the next wall, and that will help you get unstuck. And so there's some messages in the chat that I have missed before. Okay. Except for Facebook, almost all my computer time is for work. I am actually an extroverted introvert. I actually need noise that I can block out, but it needs to be my choice of noise. My office is at the front of the office in my formal living room area by the main entrance. I'm usually alone except for pets when I'm working though. I focus better when I have some noise around me, like a coffee shop or music. I have a full room. Everything I do in there is for work or personal business. And then I did move some things with decluttering. That's really good. So moving things around and some things permanently, yeah, you know, and actually, I have found for a lot of my clients, if you have anxiety about money, decluttering paperwork is very, very calming. And so like what I have seen is some of my clients, they worry a lot about money, and if you look at their statements, you know, if you're in business, you need to keep, you know, they say 7 years, some people say you need to keep 10 years of records, right? But some of my clients were keeping 12, 15 years of records. And so they feel really anxious about money. And it's really liberating to go and get rid, you know, like maybe the 11th and 12th year of paperwork. And so by working on clutter, you can actually do great. You can actually have a great result in calming down worries by decluttering papers. And so there's certain things, you know, there's certain things that if you declutter, improve. For example, if you declutter clothes, your self-esteem improves. If you declutter papers, your worries about money seem to improve. Or I can say they always improve, right? But my experience has seen, my personal experience and my experience with clients is that it usually improves. You know, worries about money improve when you declutter papers. And then if you want to study something new and everything is getting blocked, then getting rid of books that don't represent what you believe seems to help that. And let me know if you have any questions.
I think it's funny, this weekend I did decluttering, and you mentioned, you know, I've been blocked with the Feng-Shui course. Yeah. And I did get rid of books and stuff this weekend, and here I am doing this video with you.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's kind of, that just supports what you just said. Getting rid of the books that I don't relate to anymore. I know I'm never going to read. I kept all yours.
You can also take advantage of symbolism. I see your pictures here. My desk is in Wealth Prosperity and Somewhat corner of my home, along with Moni's picture from her website behind my chair. My question, Moni, is right outside my door is where I have to keep my garbage cans. Does this affect my wealth? And well, yes and no. You have to have the garbage can somewhere. And so in this case, she has her office in what used to be the dining room in the wealth corner of the home. And right behind that, there's a little porch, and that's the only place to put the garbage can. So you have to put the garbage can somewhere, but you do have to be careful, make sure it doesn't get smelly, that it doesn't get dirty. And if you can hide the garbage cans, that'd be better. So when you go out the back door, they're not the first thing that calls your attention. And also, if you can put something beautiful, you know, something beautiful plants or ornaments or a flag, something where when you go to the back porch, your eyes get drawn to that first before they go to the garbage cans, right? Okay, and so let me know if there's any other questions.
Good.
Okay, so what I was saying before is you're decluttering. For example, if you're decluttering books so that you can focus on your education, you can use symbolism. You can declutter 8 books, and that works great.
It was probably about that many, actually. I'd have to check.
Oh, cool. That's
They're
awesome.
in my car.
I look forward to seeing you back on the course and the Feng Shui consultant training. Yeah, and so, for example, for some people, if I say, well, work on decluttering paper, that's just too overwhelming. It's just too overwhelming. And so you can just make a commitment to take care of six pieces of paper. And then the next time you feel like you could do that, do another 6 pieces of paper and do it that way, and it works great. We're gonna finish this meeting. Goodbye. Thank you for joining me.